Hello, good morning everybody. This is nice, isn't it? We had this room, actually the first time it was set out with a stage at this end and then lots of chairs going back. But you know what it's like with Europeans in Canada? They kind of have a lot of time on their hands because they're not wasting time sleeping till dawn. So we've had all sorts of creative ideas. We've changed it around to be more of a sort of conversational style, an audience with distress, if you like. I'm going to introduce the Forum Day in a minute. But I just thought, have you heard the expression, give a man enough rope and he'll hang himself? I actually thought that might happen on this stage today. But luckily, he got through it. I've got a few housekeeping notes before I get on to the Forum Day, as Tony said. First of all, I'd like to just introduce you to your Congress badge. Now, you've probably seen these before. But there are a couple of things I want to talk about. One is that you will see rather clumsily, we've got the first name in bold type above your full name. That's for the over 50s. These are for the people whose failing eyesight and slightly dodgy memory make it imperative that you need something very clear as an old friend comes towards you. So please wear it tonight. We'll hear more actually about the over 50s or the over 45s with the Zuma Club later with Suzanne Boyd. But while my memory's not great, I have to tell you, it wasn't as bad as the guy I met the other day. I sometimes go for a beer about 6:30. And I went up to the hotel bar, and I was sat next to a couple from out of town. And he was telling me about this great Italian restaurant he'd been to the night before, they'd been to the night before. I said, oh, interesting. I said, what was it called? He said, my memory's not what it used to be. He said, but I'll get there. He said, what's the name of that tall flower with a nice bouquet and the prickly stems? And I said, do you mean roses? He said, that's the one. And turned to his wife and said, Rose, darling, what was the name of that restaurant that we went to? On the other side of the badge is a QR code. And this contains all the information that we have about you. So if you don't want to swap business cards, there are instructions in your Congress bag, courtesy of DP Val Worldwide, by the way, the lovely Toronto blue bags. In there are instructions as to how to use it. In fact, I think inside that Congress bag is virtually everything you need for a good week in Toronto. Well, perhaps not a glass of red wine or a cheeseburger, but it has everything else. For example, Wi-Fi. It has cost us a fortune to have Wi-Fi in here, but part of what we said 3 years ago was we believe that everyone should get free access to Wi-Fi while they're here. And so we've done that. Now, to set that up, we've got a slide somewhere, which we will put up, with these rather complicated instructions. But you will find, again, in your Congress bag, all of that information, so you don't need to worry too much about that now. We've also got something in the Congress bag called Reach for the Sky. Nothing to do with Toy Story, but it's everything to do with the CN Tower. Last year, if you remember, in our generosity, we gave you an umbrella. Hopefully some of them, they've lasted this year. I've still got mine in my room upstairs. But anyway, this year, what we're giving you is the opportunity to see Toronto from the top of the CN Tower. So in your Congress bag, it says Reach for the Sky. We've got 350 tickets. Now, they're not in your Congress bag. The voucher is, because on a good old circulation system, they're on sale or return. So if you don't come and collect them from our booth in the expo, we will get the money back from the CN Tower. But I do urge you to do it. But here's the rub. There's only 350 of them. So don't knock us over first thing in the morning, but do get there quite smartly. Otherwise, you'll have to pay the $30 or whatever it is. OK, now Tony talked about 2016 and Dubai, and we're very excited about that. I have to say that we're also starting the process, we have started the process for 2017. Now, we have to do that because it takes time for the bidding process to happen and for the executive committee to make their shortlists and so on. So I want to put up on here the 9 cities, European cities, that we are putting bids out for in 2017. Now, the reason we're putting this up here is that the executive committee will make a decision on shortlisting in about 3 months, on December the 2nd in London. And if you've got any strong views either way, then please let either me know and I'll hand it on to the executive committee, or lobby directly your local friendly EC member, just so they've got the information. They'll take everything into account when they make that choice. But there's some interesting ones there. Okay, tonight, just one more housekeeping note about tonight. The coaches leave from outside the Sheraton. They'll be running from 7 o'clock, and then they start to run back towards the Sheraton at 9:30 or so. But I do hope you'll join us for the nightclub, because it looks like we're going to have a wonderful space. When I went in there yesterday, it looked like Liberace heaven. There were candelabras everywhere. So, well, I do hope you enjoy that. Okay, we've got a good forum day lined up, a great forum day lined up here today, and I'm going to introduce John Cruikshank in a minute. But I would be very interested in his views from a Canadian newspaper point of view on the transition from print to digital. Where are we? I know you took part in a roundtable in Toronto with Ken White and others about 18 months ago, and the general consensus then was that, look, print is here to stay. It's just finding its way amongst a group of ways of delivering content. And I just wonder what's changed since then. We also, John and I were both together at the excellent INMA show in New York, and that's the one that startled me, because up to then I'd always assumed that no established media has ever been killed by another one. You know, we still go to the theatre, we still go to the cinema, we still watch TV in ever bigger screens, and we've got our mobiles and we've got everything. Everything seems to find a space. But I'd ruled out one thing, which is kind of suicide. We were listening to some newspapers saying, right, print is finished for us as a model, and in a much shorter timescale than I'd ever thought. Greg Highwood, who's the CEO of Fairfax Media, was talking quite openly about the fact that they wouldn't be in print by the end of this decade. Now, when you think about the titles we're talking about, it sent a shiver down my spine. We're talking about the Melbourne Age, the Sydney Morning Herald, the Australian Financial Review. These are fantastic titles. And to ensure this happened, he said, we're going to leave this to chance. We're going to cut circulation by 15% a year to ensure that we end up with just a digital product in this timescale. You know, there are these sunny digital uplands that they can see in the distance, a bit like Watership Down. They can see that place they have to get to. But the question, of course, is whether advertisers and more crucially, perhaps readers, are going to follow all the way there. But, of course, those uplands are wonderful because they don't carry any production cost or time of delivery and all that. Everything could be done very, very quickly. Somebody else I'm going to point you towards, if you don't know him already, is Peter Preston. He was the first editor I ever met in real life. He was my editor at The Guardian, and I've been in awe of him ever since. He's now the best media commentator I know. He's got printer's ink running through his veins, but he still understands the digital landscape so well. So he's in The Observer every Sunday, and I do urge you to seek Peter Preston out. I'm going to get him to come here. Well, not to Toronto, we won't be there, but I'll get him to come to Distripress at one of the future ones. But he was saying it's much more nuanced than just dead tree giving way to glittering screens. There's much more to it than that. And it's not only nuanced by category of title, i.e. newspapers against magazines, but within magazine categories, and then within geography. So we've got to get a handle on what is happening in various regions of the world, in various countries and so on. And so Peter Preston is someone I think we should watch out for. He talks of an experiment at the Dallas Morning News where they got 2,000 print subscribers, and what they tried to do is to wean them off print by bringing the digital subscription levels down gradually. Well, can I tell you, they got to a 90% discount on the digital subscription, and hardly any of these guys had moved. Now, you could say this is a Dallas thing, these people thing, but it does show, maybe, that just because some newspapers or magazines decide digital is the future in their boardrooms, not always will the readers go along with that. Maybe there's good news and bad news, because it means that there is, on the good news side, there is still a solid following for the delivery medium that carries the highest advertising dollar. But the other bit, but if it is sticky, the problems will come then when you try and move everyone over to digital, and you end up with a rump of readers still demanding the high cost that is associated with print and distribution. bit later on this morning, we've got Dr. Samir Husni. I heard him speak for the first time in Philadelphia earlier this year, and I was determined I'd bring him here. He's loved magazines since he was a small boy, and he will talk to us forever. As long as we can listen, he'll talk to us about magazines. And I'm really looking forward to that session. And after that, Rich Allagher is going to take his group, which is taking distributors from 4 countries, looking at consolidation in the supply chain. What are the good things? What are the bad things when you squeeze out players in the middle? And then we will take a lunch break. And then please be back for Suzanne Boyd. We saw her doing some rehearsals yesterday. She is editor-in-chief of Zoomer magazine, and she's going to give us a special little insight into the world of the baby boomers with zip. I'm hoping to make that club one day, but that's what we need, baby boomers with zip, and I can see a few as I look out here. Okay, I'm going to, just before, again, I'm going to bring John up. I'd like to bring up our day chair, who's Linda Ruth, who's chairman and CEO of Publishing Dojo and a well-known author and figure on the magazine's stage in the US. Ladies and gentlemen, please, Linda Ruth.